Yes, hello. This is Danny from Offrite. At Offrite, we have a feature called Dynamic Planning, which automatically schedules your tasks in the calendar. I'll do my best to explain this feature in a way that's really brief, simple, and to the point. To understand dynamic planning, there are just 3 things you need to know. The first is how important the task is. The second is the deadline for when the task needs to be completed, in other words, the due date, and finally, the total amount of time required to complete the task, that is, the time. So, I'll show you one by one, in order, how these 3 things work. As you can see here, the tasks are actually scheduled on the calendar for 1 hour each, in the order of 1, 2, 3, and 4. This time, I'll try changing the priorities of these tasks. For example, if I mark this task as very important, the second one immediately moves to the top and the order changes accordingly. Next, I set this task as low priority, but since there are 2 tasks without a priority set, they remain in their current positions. Now, I'll set this one to high priority and this one to medium. When I do this, the scheduled order automatically changes according to the priority, and the order in the calendar is updated in the same way. This time, I'll show you an easy way to change the time it takes to complete each task. As you can see here, 1H means it takes 1 hour, but for example, this one only takes about 30 minutes, and this one could actually take a long time, so I think it will take about 3 hours, so I increase it. Similarly, I judge that this one might take about 2 hours, so I extend it, and the 4th task at the end also takes an hour and a half. Tasks that exceed today's working hours are automatically scheduled for the next day like this. Now, this time, I'll show you the deadline, which was the 3rd element I mentioned earlier. For example, if this task has been carried over but actually needs to be completed by today, you can either click the D4 due date or enter the due date here. If you set it to be done by today, as you can see, it suddenly turns orange, and since the due date is today, it moves to the very front. In other words, while priority is generally respected, if there is a due date, it is considered much more important. So, even if the priority is low, the system helps you automatically plan so that deadlines are always met. And finally, although there is this automatic planning, you might wonder, when do I have to adjust the priority again? Or when do I have to change the deadline again? Sometimes, I just have 3 tasks I want to do, and I want to adjust the order freely to plan them in the sequence I prefer. That's exactly what Fast Track exists for. It's a bit like when you go to an amusement park and get to enter first, think of it in that way. For example, let's try putting these 2 tasks you can see now, connect to Juju and download desktop app onto the Fast Track. And here, I'll just adjust the order as I like by simply dragging and dropping. As you can see, even though there are deadlines and priorities, you can still see that the tasks I moved to the Fast Track and reordered are planned in the calendar according to their expected durations. Lastly, there's the ability to play back a specific task. For example, let's try playing back this task. So, when you play it back, it asks you how long you want to play it for. If you say, I'm going to work on this task for 1 hour now, the original 2-hour task is automatically split into 2 parts, 1 hour and 1 hour. Based on the current time, 1 hour is allocated now, and the remaining 1 hour is scheduled afterwards, so you can see how the tasks are divided and planned accordingly. So, if, for example, I finish one of these sessions a bit earlier, the time is reduced by however much earlier I completed it, and the remaining time is then scheduled for the future. This way, the tool instantly tracks how much time the user has spent on a particular task, helps you keep track of the remaining time, and automatically schedules the rest for the future based on that remaining time. You can think of it as a tool that works instantly in this way. Now, even though we always have these kinds of plans in place, the world we live in is incredibly unpredictable, isn't it? For example, in this kind of world, a new meeting might suddenly be scheduled. So, let's say a new event comes up here. When you press enter, the schedule automatically adjusts to take this into account, and any tasks you couldn't complete today are automatically moved to the next available slot, so you can think of it as planning everything for you automatically. On the other hand, even if there's a specific time that's been automatically scheduled, you might not feel like doing it at that time. If you manually drag it and say, I want to do this at 5 p.m. on Thursday, a padlock icon will appear, indicating that the user has expressed their intention and decided to do it at that time. The system recognizes this and fixes that time slot, then automatically reschedules the remaining tasks into the available time slots. That's how it works. If you just understand what I've explained so far, you can say you now know pretty much everything about auto-planning. So, the first thing to remember is that auto-planning basically works by automatically scheduling tasks based on their importance, deadline, and duration. Secondly, for urgent tasks, you can always move them up to the Fast Track and manually adjust their order to schedule them as you wish. And finally, even though the system automatically schedules tasks, users can always manually fix a task at their preferred time by dragging and dropping it. Yes, thank you for listening. I hope this has been very helpful.